1 month of the NBA season has passed with the ending of week 4. How's it going, everybody? It is Braxton from Angle Fantasy Basketball here with the week 5 buy and sell list. So jumping right into it, my top buy for the week, Toumani Camara. He's really somebody I've had my eye on for a while. He's only 14% owned on Yahoo, and I'm not really sure why. He's averaging 1.7 steals per game. Everything else is kind of just okay. He doesn't really hurt you anywhere. The points are around 10. The boards around 4, which is nice. On Yahoo, he's just gained small forward eligibility, which is really interesting as well. Excuse me, the boards are around 5. The assists are at 2. 1.8 turnovers per game, which is not great for somebody. The turnovers to assist ratio is not really great. And the field goal is about mid-range at 46%. The free throw being at 70, I know can be off-putting to some, but he's averaging 1.3 attempts per game, so it's not terribly impactful. And the 1.5 3-point made per game is something that I'm really liking as well in conjunction with those steals. I'm not saying he's a must roster guy in 10 teams or even 12 teams, but it is really interesting to me that, and this is kind of going to be a theme for this week, is that there are a month into the season, there's much worse players that are owned in a much higher percentage of leagues than Toumani Camara. He's at 133 on the year, which is kind of on the cusp for 12 team leagues. And I know Aiden has been banged up, but Camara was playing decent even before that. A punt assist team, I think he's a great grab. Even on a team that's strong in assists, I think he's a great guy because he gets kind of those out of position steals from the small forward, power forward position. Easily would roster him over somebody like Caruso, who is not really playing at all. And Camara is playing 31 minutes per night. And again, I know that that's kind of inflated from Ayton being banged up, but I really expect him to be playing a massive role for this Blazers team this season. And I think he's just getting started. If he can get those points, the points up from 9 to about 11 or so, and then maybe have the assists tick up slightly. I know he's not really a ball handler, right? But it really could unlock him as a fantasy asset this year. So pretty top tier streamer type for me in 12 team leagues. Dynasty, he's somebody I like long term for this Blazers team too. Coming into this year, I thought he was one of those guys who kind of just runs around out there, but he's showing that he can contribute when he's on the floor. And I do also want to add, in terms of picking him up this week, like if you're in a redraft league, they don't play, the Blazers don't play until Wednesday, so it's possible you can wait to maybe on Tuesday to pick him up if you really want him, or Wednesday if you want to chance it, right? But I think he's a pretty elite. He's pretty firmly in that elite streamer category for me. So number 2 is going to be RJ Barrett. This is kind of a weird one for a lot of people, and I know a lot of people don't like him. He did just put up that triple double on Saturday. I believe it was 23 points, 10 rebounds, 15 assists. Pretty monster stat line from Barrett. I know the percentages are bad. On the year, he's shooting 40% from the field and 60 from the line, which is not ideal. And for the last 2 weeks, it's 34% from the field. Okay, hear me out. I know that is bad, but you have to remember he's playing without Quickly and Scotty Barnes. We saw his ability last year to produce next to those two and still maintain increased efficiency. And to me, there's no reason why he shouldn't be able to get back to that. And it's also a reason he was climbing up draft boards this year, and also dynasty big boards, or dynasty rankings, I should say, because people anticipated that efficiency to carry over. And it's because, he wasn't going to be playing a similar role to what he was in New York. He kind of is doing that right now, right? And that's why you're seeing those percentages. The free throw, I'm not even gonna, I know it's bad. I'm not gonna try and defend that, but the field goal, that's why you're seeing it so low. He should not be having to take, in an ideal scenario, he's not taking this many shots. And the reason that he's a buy for me is because his owner could be pretty upset with those percentages. If the free throw isn't really something you're worried about or kind of something you can eat, I definitely would be looking to acquire him. And also, I would bank on the field goal ticking back up. I don't know if he's going to be able to get it back up to like 48% or something like that on the year now that he's had this start this season, but on the season, I wouldn't be surprised if it ended up somewhere around 46 or 47%. So if I'm buying RJ Barrett, it's with the idea that that efficiency is going to tick back up while the counting stats remain not exactly where they are now. Because again, he is going to lose usage too quickly in Scotty Barnes when they return, obviously. But him still being able to maintain a decent portion of those counting stats and have that efficiency tick back up. So RJ Barrett is somebody I'm really liking. This is really a situation, I know he could be a sell for some people for the same reasons, right? Where it's like, oh, he's putting up these gaudy stat lines that look better on paper than they are than what his 9-cat ranking actually is. For me, I love the counting stats, and I really think this could be a potential again, really weird to say with the stat line he just put up, a potential buy low opportunity, because I do think he is better than this from the field. And if he's able to correct some of those efficiency issues, it should offset the drop in counting stats that he takes when Scotty and quickly return. So RJ Barrett, somebody I'm really liking. Third is going to be Ty Jerome. So Ty Jerome is only 7% owned on Yahoo. You know, he's been kind of a permanent beast this year. I mean, he's played 16 minutes per game off the bench. He's shooting almost 60% off from the field. And he's averaging about 10 points, 2 boards, 3.5 assists, and 1.3 steals per game. So I do want to preface, this is getting recorded before the game he's starting for Donovan Mitchell on Sunday. So it's possible we see those numbers tick up from this, but you know, these aren't necessarily eye-popping, and he does have somewhat of a, I guess, perceived low floor, even though he's demonstrated that he has a pretty solid floor on a night-to-night basis. The perceived low floor is just, I mean, quite literally because he's not playing a ton of minutes, right? If he only gets 12 minutes one night and scores 4 points and has 2 assists, okay, that's not great, right? But as long as he's putting up these per minute lines like this, I mean, he's somebody I think that seriously needs to be considered in as similar to Toumani in the elite streamer category in 12 team, and then almost must roster in 14 team leagues. Ty Jerome, you know, it's just really interesting. He's blown me away this year. And you know, if there is an injury like there is to Donovan Mitchell, there's no injury, excuse me, but he's resting. So it'll be interesting to see. And again, this is getting recorded before that game gets played. It'll be interesting to see how he performs and what kind of upside is there in the event of an injury to, you know, significant piece of that Cavs team. He's ranking 131 on the year, which is interestingly enough ahead of guys like Trey Mann, Donovan Clingan, and Miles Bridges, right? So that's not necessarily a ringing endorsement for him, or excuse me, not exactly the high. You guys know that I'm not the biggest on 9-cat ranking, right? I like to think about impact over ranking, but I do think it's interesting to point out that Jerome in 9-category leagues has been a little bit more impactful than those guys, at least from a 9-cat ranking standpoint. So yeah, Ty Jerome, definitely somebody I'm looking at. You know, similar to a couple of these other guys, or in terms of the schedule this week. Jerome has a Tuesday and Wednesday back-to-back, so it could be a really nice stream there, especially if they want to rest Mitchell on this back-to-back. I mean, I know he's resting tonight. I guess it wouldn't make sense to rest him so close together, but I guess maybe especially with the Cavs being undefeated to this point, could be interesting to see if they want to try and squeeze a rest day in for, you know, a couple guys there as well. Now, I will say when Max Strus returns, it's possible this could be bad for him, but until that happens, let's worry about that then, right? So my number 4 buy is going to be Stephon Castle, only 20% owned on Yahoo. Again, he's only got 3 games this upcoming week, so not the best streamer, but he's more in the stash category for me. He's really got big assist upside, and a CP3 injury would be really nice. But you know, even now he's starting ahead of Devin Vassell, and it's worked out really well for him. 13 points, or excuse me, 13.5 points, 3 boards, 3.5 assists, with 1 steal per game over the last 2 weeks. I know the field goal and free throw looks really scary on the surface, but again, over the last 2 weeks, he's been shooting almost 45% from the field and 76 from the line, which is pretty formidable numbers. Really about average. You know, I don't think Castle is getting enough hype as a potential breakout as some of these other guys are. Some of these other young guys are, and that 20% owned number that I mentioned is really interesting to me, and I mentioned this with Camara, it's like there's guys who are worse than him right now, and then also to me have lower upside than he does rest of season, who have a much higher ownership percentage, right? So Brandon Pajemski, who headlined the Cells last week, is somebody I'd rather have Stephon Castle than Brandon Pajemski. One, because of the team context, right? Castle, the only thing that's standing in the way of Stephon Castle and his starting point guard role and throwing lobs to Wemby is Chris Paul, who, as we know, is not the most durable. Two, I think it's really interesting that Mitch Johnson, the interim coach for the Spurs right now, continues to start Castle ahead of Devin Vassell. So I think that's a good sign for Castle's long-term value this season and beyond, showing that they believe in him to hold down that starting 2 spot. And then also 3, the assists, we all know how hard they are to find on the waiver wire, and he is on the waiver wire in a lot of leagues. So in competitive leagues, he's definitely somebody you need to grab. 14-team leagues must roster, in my opinion, and 12-teamers. Again, the elite streamer category, but if you drop him in a 12-teamer, it's very possible you don't get him back, especially if he has a nice game or something like that. So something to be mindful of. And then jumping into the sells. Oh man, the top sell this week, Jonathan Kuminga. I believe this is the 3rd week in a row we've had a Warriors player in the sell list. Steve Kerr is really becoming the enemy of fantasy basketball. So Kuminga is not somebody I was high on coming into the season. He's ranked outside the top 250. And I know you just heard me say earlier, I prefer impact over 9cat ranking. But here's the thing. Jonathan Kuminga is almost literally only scoring points. And I know some of these lines look good on paper. Like if you look at his stat log, he's got a nice stretch in there, but they're not helping you. He's super harmful from the line, shooting under 70% on almost 4.5 attempts per game, excuse me. He's barely making 1 3-pointer per game at 1.1. He's Bojan Bogdanovic, but he doesn't have the threes or the free throw percentage, right? There's no steals. There's no assists. The boards are at 4, so not really any impactful at all. The field goal, it's not like he's Aaron Gordon is scoring field goals at a high percentage, at a high rate, so he's not helping you there either. And he's also averaging under 24 minutes per game as Kerr continues to mess with the rotations. He is 83% rostered on name value alone. This is what I'm talking about. I am not entirely convinced that I wouldn't. It's tough to say if I would be able. I don't own Kuminga anywhere, so it's tough to say if I'd make this drop. But I almost would rather have Toumani Camara over Jonathan Kuminga. I know that Kuminga has perceived upside, right? And I know he can put up 25 points on a night, but he's almost literally only scoring, right? So in redrafts, especially 10 teams, he is a drop in 10-team leagues. 12 teams, I wouldn't put it past you to drop him, although depending on how competitive your league is, it is possible that there isn't somebody better than him on the wire, or with his upside on the wire. There's almost certainly somebody that ranks higher than him on the season, again, outside the top 250. So Kuminga, not really somebody I'm liking in Dynasty either, unless there's a complete overhaul of this Warriors team, and they really haven't shown any interest in doing that. I think Buddy Hield is soaking up a lot of the usage that people were hoping would go to Kuminga, and Pajemski for that matter. And they're playing well, so there's no reason to switch that up and to give Buddy a lesser role for any reason like that. So Kuminga, not somebody I'm liking right now or for the rest of the season. And to round this out just quickly, I do want to give a big thumbs down, or sells, I guess I should say, to the medium level players in the Grizzlies rotation. This is going to be a mess. I know some of these guys are coming back from injury. They're kind of able to mess with the minutes a little bit while they are getting fully up to speed. Desmond Bane, Marcus Smart, guys like that. And I know Ja is still working his way back as well. But Laravia, some guys I'm not liking right now. Santi Aldama is somebody I'm really concerned about. He's not necessarily a drop yet in anywhere you'd have him, but the minutes total last game was really concerning. Jake Laravia is a drop just because he's not going to play enough. Jay Wells is interesting. His minutes have stayed up with the return of Desmond Bane and Marcus Smart, but it will be interesting to see if those minutes continue to stay up as the weeks progress. There's going to be a couple. They went 12 deep. Jay Huff, by the way, is also somebody that it seems to be a big loser from this. He only played 6 minutes last game. There's just too many bodies in this Grizzlies rotation to sustain, 5, 6, 7 fantasy relevant guys. There's just not enough minutes to go around. So Jay Huff is a drop. Santi Aldama, wait and see. Jake LaRavia is a drop. Scottie Pippen, definitely somebody I'm holding on to for right now, just because of those assists. Jalen Wells, who isn't really owned anywhere anyway. I just don't know if he's going to be able to maintain that usage that he was seeing with all those injuries. And then, they went 12 deep, or I believe maybe even 13 deep. Apologies, I don't have it in front of me. This past game, I mentioned Jay Huff had 6 minutes he was on the low end of that. And Taylor Jenkins is, I say he's not going to be able to do that every game, but maybe he will, right? And we'll see what happens. There is going to be somebody's going to come out victorious at this when Taylor Jenkins decides to tighten up the rotation. But in real life, this is a good problem for the Grizzlies to have. So, kind of those medium level guys I would be kind of concerned about. But with that being said, thank you so much for watching. This was the week 5 buy and sell. Check us out on our website, anglefantasybasketball.wordpress.com. Follow us on Twitter at anglefantasybb. We are also now on Bluesky, anglefantasybb. Please follow us on Bluesky as well. We're going to be posting on there and Twitter for the time being. Really liking Bluesky so far. I'm liking how it feels, and the interface feels really clean, and there's doesn't have some of the issues that Twitter has. So we're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts as well. Really anywhere you get your podcasts now. We've branched out to places like iHeartRadio and Pocket Casts, and YouTube Music as well. So follow us wherever you get your podcasts. And with that being said, I will talk to you guys next time. Thanks so much. Bye.